Today on the show, we are joined by Elizabeth Dall, a certified women's nutrition coach and behavior change expert who helps women break free from dieting and create healthy habits that stick. Her mission is to empower women to make peace with food, embrace their bodies, and build sustainable, healthy habits that support lifelong wellness. Okay. If you've ever struggled with inconsistency or felt stuck in the cycle of dieting, this episode is for you. It felt like a warm hug to me. I'm so excited to bring it to you. Listen in. Hello, Elizabeth. I am so excited that you are on the Love Your Life show. I wanted to have you on for many reasons. One of the main ones is that I heard you say that you can help women stop with all the diets, the rules, and the restrictions, and sounds amazing to me. But most of my listeners have no idea how. And so I wanted to have you come on. And I guess before we start in on that, can you tell me a little about how you, if people have not heard of the amazing Elizabeth Dall, how you got to be doing what you're doing and how you help people?
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad you say I'm amazing. We haven't even gotten to the conversation.
Come on.
I love it. Yeah, so interestingly enough, my journey kind of started in the gym as a personal trainer. I wanted to help people get healthy, and I was giving them all these textbook plans, right, that I learned to give them. I was doing the same to myself, and all of us, including myself, were not following the plans. We were like having the emotional eating episodes at night. Life was stressful. Like we weren't able to follow these plans. And so we weren't getting results. And what I realized is that we are taught as women that we should be able to fit our imperfect lives into these perfect plans, right? These diet programs that are set up for perfection. And so, it took me several failed attempts and failed attempts even with clients as we were learning together that there's more to health and wellness than following the perfect plan. It's about learning how to connect with your body and learning how to fit health and wellness into an imperfect and busy life. And that's really what led me to doing what I do now is, I'm not writing plans, I'm helping women figure out what is their vision of health and wellness or a woman of wellness and what can help us get there with the lifestyle rather than that perfect plan that causes the emotional eating, the sabotage, the guilt, the shame.
Well, and I love that too. And it's just flipping it from like, like learning how to fit wellness into your life versus what I think a lot of us do is like we get this plan and then that takes over our life. Like that's all we're thinking about. That's all we're, when am I going to do this and how am I doing this bad and what am I doing wrong here instead of, I heard someone say recently, they're like, going to the gym is like the least interesting part of my day. Like I don't want to be thinking about it for 3 days before and then after, and then did I do it right? And then what am I eating? Because I went to the, like all of that. Yes, please. Like that is really fitting. And so what do you see sort of as the women, like where do they get into trouble or what's the biggest thing for them to overcome when they're trying to make that shift?
Yeah, it funny enough, it starts pretty early in life. At some point in most women's lives, they were taught or discovered that their body was different, different than a standard, right? Than the ideal, different than hers, or for, women that are kind of a little bit older or reaching, aging, I guess you'd say, we're comparing our body to something previous, like before I had kids, right? Before menopause. And so we create in our mind that my body's different, therefore that's wrong. And that's where all of the diet cycle, the diet sabotage, the desperation to lose the weight, it starts there. Where we determine that we're different, that's wrong, and so I need to escape my body. And I
Mm,
bet most women listening could probably go back to a particular time in their life, or something happened that triggered that. And I'll share one with you with about my story. I have a very vivid memory of having a favorite pair of shorts when I was a little girl, and they were short, and I wore them all the time. And my grandma told my mom that I shouldn't wear those shorts. My legs didn't look good in them.
mm,
And so then I created a story and a belief that, my legs were wrong. They weren't
mm,
the right way they were supposed to be. And that led me to, like, well, then I've got to diet. I've got to lose the weight. And so lots of women, that's where their
mm,
story starts, is my body's different and that's not right.
mm. Oh my gosh, that resonates so much. I can think of like 40 examples. And it really is that disconnection with body. And I noticed, I'm 53 now, but I have done a lot of work around noticing that I really had like a distrust and dislike of my body. That it's sort of like that, where it's like, oh my God, legs, what's wrong with you? Why are you not fitting into these shorts? Or for me, it was Guess jeans were a big deal when I was in middle school and high school. And I remember like I saved up money and I finally got my Guess jeans. I finally like went to the store to get the Guess jeans and tried them on. And that does not work for my body. Like I was more, thicker thigh. I was not like those stick little legs. And I remember just being like, okay, then I need to eat rice cakes. And like, it wasn't a problem of, it wasn't like, okay, let's go find another pair of jeans. Like, it was something's wrong with Susie and that sort of body, which then leads into that diet cycle of trying to control. And then we can't, and move out. Yeah, that's so hard. So, how do you help people sort of get out of that cycle of thinking that we're wrong or bad, and then maybe getting super rigid, and then you have that self-sabotage? Because that absolutely, I know many of my listeners are in perimenopause and menopause too. It's like you have a redistribution of weight, and so we see like our bellies. And so right now, maybe a listener's like, okay, now I need to eat less, no carbs for morning and lunch, and whatever our rule is, and do 1,400 sit-ups, at the gym, whatever they're saying. And you can keep that up. Maybe you start on Sunday, but then by Wednesday, because of that you're on the couch with a bag of carbs, feeling like crud about yourself. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Help.
That's a big question, and I'm going
Yeah.
to make it as simple as possible. It all stems from that desire to escape our
Mm,
body. And anyone listening, I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of emotions that come with our bodies, and there's a lot of emotions that come with change, right? Maybe you're not recognizing your body, and those emotions are valid and they're important to have. But we also have to remember that this is our body. This is
mm,
the body that we have, and we can choose to try to fight it and try to escape it, and then constantly be fighting it,
mm,
or we can start saying, hey, let's start building this relationship.
mm,
And I like to compare it to a significant other relationship, like maybe a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend. When you're kind of starting to build that relationship, you nourish it. You
mm,
start to spend time together. You speak kindly to each other, right? You're patient with each other. You learn with each other, and you're committed to that relationship thriving
I
and
mean, you might
growing.
think like, what might this person need? Like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
You spend time with them, you're thinking about them. On the contrary, if you're ignoring them, saying mean things about them, avoiding them, that relationship is going to be in turmoil long term, right? It might crumble.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with our bodies. If we can commit to saying, well, this is the body that I have, and I want to build a relationship, what does this take? It takes time. It takes commitment. It takes kind words.
Mm,
Anything that you would use to build a good relationship in your life is the same thing with your body.
mm. I love that. I do. Um, that reconnection to body. When you first said that, I didn't really get what you were meaning, but that absolutely just sort of coming back in, and not ignoring our body. I mean, if you think of a really stringent diet or whatever I was trying to do with those Guess jeans, there's a part where you have to absolutely ignore that body. Like I had to, my body is not going to thrive on rice cakes or whatever I remember it was like rice cakes and spearmint gum. Like I was just like, okay, how is that helpful? And coming back into that, um, just relationship with body has been my savior in terms of getting out of the diet cycle, the self-sabotage, and any sort of disordered eating, and really thinking instead, like I like your relationship analogy of like, what does my body need? I very much had some moments where I'm like, I am so sorry, body. Like I have just pounded you, like just with crazy workouts, really under caloric restriction. And then also, I definitely have done my share of binge eating and eating stuff that it's like, oh my gosh, like the chemicals I was putting in you and the things I was putting in you and expecting you to perform. Like, I'm so sorry. That has helped me a lot. Plus, so that's helped me sort of with the past. Plus, for the future, I really have tried to create this identity where I say, like, I'm the type of woman who takes care of her body. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, what does that look like? Does that look like me having, finishing off the chocolate cake tonight? Or does that look like me like getting to bed earlier or having a bit of a break, like not putting that food in me before my body is going to go sleep and digest? And it just gets out of some of my nasty thinking that,
Yeah, I like to tell the women in my programs, because I am a woman of wellness, I choose dot dot dot. It's the
ah,
same thing that you do, right? You
yes.
connect the identity and that leads you to the choice.
Mhm. Yeah, which is massive. That and I do, because I'm a woman of wellness, or I'm the type of woman who takes care of my body. That's a far stretch for listeners to get to. Um, that so where do the listener who's listening right now and is like, oh yeah, no, like there's no part of me that, or is still feeling like angry at her body. I guess that's too like this sort of what's happening, and I'm doing all the right things, and um that anger, how do you help them with that?
Yeah. Let's start with something that every single woman listening has. It's a gift that we're born with, and you still have it, but we've just lost touch with it. And it's the ability to connect with your body's internal cues. So when you were born, you cried when you were hungry, you stopped when you were full, right? Like your body told you exactly what you needed. You had no idea what calories were. You
Mm,
had no idea if you ate too much of this. Your body said, I have a tummy ache, I did too much, or I have a tummy ache, I'm hungry.
mm,
And at some point in our lives, we lose touch with that.
mhm,
Whether it's from a diet saying this is how much you're supposed to eat or don't eat this, right? And it tells us follow this and don't follow your body. And so it's really easy for women to get in that cycle of like frustration because they've been relying on so many outside sources to tell them how to feel and what to do. And I think it's so valuable to be able to say, okay, I have this gift. Now I'm going to take an opportunity to reconnect with this gift. And when I do that, it starts to shift from anger, hatred, right? This like disappointment to, hey, we're going to work together on this.
mm,
And yes, I can take some information that's good out there. I might be learning about menopause, right? I might be learning some things, but then I get to do it my way that fits right. And you kind of mentioned as you've kind of been talking, it's interesting. There's a prevalence, I guess the word is, to do it all, do more than you should.
mm,
And so you're kind of saying, I was eating, I was restricting a ton, extreme. I was exercising a ton, extreme. And we think in our minds that that's all the right things because
mm,
that's what we've been taught.
mhm,
But you noticed as you kind of shift from that mentality that it wasn't about doing all the right things that got you where you
mm,
are now.
for
Would
sure.
you agree?
Yes. Yeah. And it wasn't about like, because that perfectionist thinking gets you to sitting on the couch with the bag of carbs feeling like crud about yourself because you aren't giving yourself credit for drinking a glass of water and nourishing your body, or getting up when it's all the little tiny things that we do that we're just skating right past. um
Yeah. And if you're looking for someone to blame, let's blame the diet industry because that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you back.
Hmm.
That's their business model.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really hard to like voice out loud. They're like, "Wait, no, they don't have my best interest in
No,
mind."
they don't. Yeah.
But the truth is, it's like, "Oh, we want you to keep coming back." So if we give you these extreme methods that are unrealistic, you're going to do those same things.
Hmm. Oh, for sure. I mean, that is capitalism, like convincing people that there's a problem and they have that solution for a problem to the problem. And so you're the problem. Your body's the problem. You're, and yeah, I posted something last week that was like, if we all stopped this diet mentality, think of how many industries would go out of business.
So many.
So many, so many. And I guess another way I see it showing up, and this is, I used to be a personal trainer too. So it's like, I see it in the wellness space of confusion and women, maybe a woman listening being like, I don't know what I should do. And that, what kind of exercise, but I hear strength training, but what kind of strength training? Or I hear eat this way, and what I'm hearing from you is when we reconnect with our body and get back into that, like we're the best authority of ourselves, then we have those answers. It's not as complicated as it seems. I like, with thinking, let's be curious over furious. So we might be furious with our body that like, why do I have this extra roll around my middle? Or why am I, extra puffy? Or that's furious versus curious. Like, I wonder why. Let me see, when I do eat this thing, how do I feel after? Or when it's just a much kinder mindset to it all. And then it brings us back to us that maybe Elizabeth does great eating XYZ at every meal, but let me see what Susie does. Oh, well, Susie feels puffy and bloated or has a hard time pooing out, or whatever. And it's just not, it's so self-respectful, I guess, is what comes up for me. And what we're not encouraged to do as women, like you just fit into the mold and just shove yourself into that damn mold. Thank you very much. But we're all different and unique. So what does it feel like to you when that sort of mindset, the curious over furious, has helped me so much get out of um the thought that like something is a treat for me, or that, because I'll have that restriction, like, no, you shouldn't eat this sort of thing, like whatever it is. And then you feel like, no, 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 I have to eat the thing. So then you eat all of the thing. But when I get more into like, well, how does it feel to eat the thing? Like, when I do eat that, like for me, it's like chocolate lava cake. Like when I do eat that, how do I feel? You know what? I don't notice feeling any differently after like 2 or 3 bites. So eat it. But when I eat the whole thing plus my husband's serving, I feel pretty nasty and I don't sleep well. And okay, so let's go there. And what's the real treat? Like, is the treat to finish the whole damn thing, or is the treat to do what feels good to my body? And I'm gonna pause because I need to, I need to just like sit and preach. But help me out here. What's coming up in your head?
Yeah, so the thing that was a couple things were coming up. So the first thing I think of is like a swing. So if you pull a swing really far back, it's going to swing the other direction really far in the other direction. And so often we exist in those extremes. We extreme restrict. And so then as soon as we restrict, it builds up a craving, right? And then all of a sudden we have a moment, a stressful moment or whatever, and we eat the whole sleeve of cookies rather than just one. And it's like, why can't I do that? Because we set ourselves up to swing the other direction of, well, screw it. I've already messed up. I might as well keep going.
Mhm.
But could we find a little, I like to call it a happy swing, where
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, there are some good guidelines. You learned that like fruits and vegetables do these things for your bodies, and protein is helpful for fullness and satisfaction. Knowing those things help us. Do we need to track every ounce, every, calorie of protein that we get? No. Our bodies, we can be intuitive, but it's okay for us to find that happy swing of I have freedom with food and I also have some boundaries and some structure because it all goes back to I have created that relationship with my body that we're working together. And
Mm.
I know what makes me feel good and what doesn't make me feel so good. And I've gotten curious about it. And now I can find that balance. I haven't pulled that swing so far back. It's, yeah, I've
Mm.
got some boundaries for myself, I have some guidelines, and I also have freedom, and I can exist in between those.
Mm. Yes. And I do think, and just with my listeners, I want you to hear what she's saying, that it's not this like all or nothing. It's not a like, you can't have the cookie swinging all the other way to like, oh, I'm just gonna, eat the whole sleeve because this feels good to me. And it's like this willy-nilly, that we do have some guidelines that help us, so that we sort of override. I mean, these are things you just said that we've been doing since we were how old? So we have deep neural pathways that food is going to meet some of our, emotional needs, or that, but we just have a lot of drama around food. I guess that leads me to, you talk about emotional eating. I'd love to talk about emotional eating, and you say that it's not about willpower, it's about understanding our emotions. Could you say a little more about that? Like, what is happening when we are feeling an emotion, like, and we go to eat the whole sleeve, or
Yeah. So a lot of times, funny enough, it's a habit that we've created. Um, we get uncomfortable with emotions and we want to avoid them. But the reality is that as women, we experience a lot of emotions and we don't have a ton of control over what emotions we experience. I mean, we can do some proactive things. That's like, hey, if I'm overwhelmed, I probably need to do some things to relieve that. But we can't always control the emotions that are coming in.
mm-mm,
And so when we experience emotions, I always remind women it's okay to feel them
mm,
because I actually think emotional eating is a gift.
mm,
It tells us that something is off
mm.
with our bodies or with our lives. It's a cue. It's
Yeah.
literally you're using the gift that you have. Your body says, "Ding ding ding, something's happening here. I'm giving you a cue." And we're taught to suppress these emotions, right? And
Mm,
so food is easy to do. We just go grab it, it easily suppresses it. I mean, we don't feel good after, but it's a very easy, like, next step.
mhm,
It's not quite as easy to say, hey, I recognize this. What's going on here?
mm,
Right. And it's just that one simple switch of, hey, and I always tell people, name the emotion. Hey, I know you, your sadness.
mm,
Your sadness. Um, and then we kind of following along from there, we say, what do I need? I need to
mm,
feel happy. It's usually the opposite. I need to feel
mm,
happy. Well, if I go for the cookie, is that going to make me feel happy or is that going to fill me with guilt and shame? Probably guilt and shame, right? So what can I do now?
mm.
Do I need to read some jokes? Do I
Yeah.
need to go for a walk? Like, what will help me feel that outcome that I want? What will help me feel that emotion that I'm looking for? If I'm overwhelmed,
Mm,
I want to be less stressed, right? Maybe I need to look at my schedule and cut two things out. And the simple act of just being aware before you make the choice,
mm.
the pause is what can change the choice.
Oh, for sure. And what I think lets us have more of a pause there is what you're talking about. You're sort of removing the shame from emotional eating. I really like that. Just seeing it. I've never heard anyone speak like that. Like seeing it as a gift, and it's just like, oh, it's a little sign here. Like, what are you here to tell me? Like when we catch ourselves. But it to me, it can feel, because it can be habitual. It can feel almost like I'm in a fog, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've got my hand in the bag, or I'm, there are like four shells of walnuts here, but who was cracking them? Oh, it was me. But it's just very habitual in that way. And I love removing the shame that like, oh no, you can't emotionally eat, versus like, oh, what's this telling me? What do you hear? What am I feeling? What's going on? Slowing it down a little. Like, how did I get to this place with the crumbs on my face? And so what I'm hearing you say is, one thing is you name the feeling, like what is the one word that you are feeling? Sadness, hurt. Sometimes for me, it's boredom. I'm just like, okay, what's
Totally.
next? I pass by the kitchen. I'm like, there you go.
Yes.
So naming the feeling and then asking yourself, like, what is it that I need? Or I like asking, like, what's another way for me to get this need met? Like what's something else? Like, so if I'm feeling bored, yeah, eating gives me something to do. What's something else I could do? Or, you want to be happy. What's another way? Yes, like sugar straight on into our brain's dopamine is going to make us feel, lighten our mood a little. But what's another way? Okay, I could watch some comedy, or I could listen to some jokes. Just so if we remove the shame that emotional eating is bad and you should never do this, because that sounds like the swing again, then we can get into that place, is what I'm hearing you say, of more self-compassion and um, sort of just recentering back to us. Like, okay, it's fine. Like, no big whoop, but you were just emotional eating. Yeah. What's that telling you? Is that,
Yeah. A a good relationship with food is not a perfect relationship with food.
mm,
And there might be some surprised feelings right now, but I'm not immune from emotional eating either. I'm an emotional eating coach.
yeah.
But guess what? I have seasons in life. I just recently went through one where there was a lot of overwhelm in my life. Nobody told me that 3 kids was like 4,000 kids. And I am trying to do a lot of things. And it's so interesting because I found myself in a pattern. I started going back to a pattern that I had kind of before I got food freedom, and it was eating a treat every night. It was a very
Mm,
like, it's just like, it's that, just
yeah.
decompression, right?
Mhm.
And it's so interesting because I was like, I'm a coach. I shouldn't be doing this, and I just had that
Yeah.
moment. I thought, you know what? Wait a minute. This is what I teach my clients,
Mm,
that you have the ability to return faster when you have a, good relationship with food. It's not perfect. You're not
mm,
ever going to have, you're never going to not like overeat sometimes or have an emotional eating episode, but it's an opportunity to say something's off.
mm,
And that led me to like, oh, okay, my life is really overwhelming, or some things I need to cut out some things because it was
mm,
leading me to this. And it helped me. And I got right back on track.
yeah.
And that's normal. And I want to normalize that sometimes things get messy
Mm,
and they don't go perfectly or the way that you think they should. But that good relationship doesn't mean it's perfect. It means that you're working on it and you are able to realign quicker, right? Instead of spiral out for weeks, months at a time, it's like, oh, I saw this happen. I identified it. I was able to do something about it and I got back to where I was.
mm. Yes, which I love all of that, which then also sort of brings in my area of work, because it's like if it's a sign, it's like, oh, something's a little off. What's off here? Like I'm doing whatever it is, I'm overeating, or maybe I'm overworking, or like whatever our sort of pattern of, I call it buffering from life. Like we might be over exercising, or we're over scrolling, or we're over like something that afterwards it doesn't feel so great, um, over numbing in some way. Um, it's like, okay, well, what is really here? Like if I just stop and pretend I'm someone watching my life, not me in my life, like what might this behavior be telling me without the shame? Just like it looks like maybe you're having a hard time. Looks like, there's a little bit of overwhelm here with your kids, and that this is, the time of night where you're like, oh my God, it's me as a mom of three with the like, please bring me the ice cream. And it's like, what is this telling you? That takes emotional maturity to not crumble in on ourselves that there's something wrong, like to not focus on the behavior and blame ourselves for the behavior of the eating, more just like, okay, that's what you're doing, and let's see what this is telling us, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, it goes back to your curious over furious,
Curious
right?
over,
I've got
yeah.
to be curious about why did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, such freedom. Yeah. So for the woman who's like, okay, I want to get started with this, but maybe is feeling a little overwhelmed, like if it's all like woo woo, Susie and Elizabeth, like, what do I do? I've had this pattern for a long time, or I'm not feeling happy with my body. I totally feel disconnected with it. Where would you have her start?
Yeah, it's a skill and a practice, right? Like you practice this every day. And I want people to remember that. Like we have to have skills and it becomes a practice. And the first thing that I do with everyone is start them with a mindful eating practice. And I have a free mindful eating audio meditation I'm happy to provide your
Oh
listeners,
yeah.
that just kind of guides them through like, how do I reconnect with my body and with food? Because, like I mentioned earlier, you've probably turned that signal off because you've ignored
Oh,
it for
I
so
have.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we've got to turn it back on. We've got to reconnect that body and the brain together. And so I suggest that one meal a day for a couple weeks, and then eventually you can kind of learn how to manage it without focusing on it too much, is sit down and be mindful. Look at the food, pay attention to the food, feel how it tastes. I think most people would be surprised how chaotic our eating is. I think we
Mhm.
might say, "Oh yeah, I'm mindful," but we're actually pretty chaotic eaters
Mhm.
in general. And so, if you just spent some time listening to your body, what does it feel like for me to feel hungry? Like, what does this
Mhm.
cue feel like? And what does it feel like for me to be satisfied? So many
Mhm.
women struggle to stop eating
Mhm.
because they just keep going because they're not paying attention, and it's like it's very emotional. But once you've connected, you have the ability to say, I know what it feels like to feel full and satisfied,
Mhm.
and I can stop here. So that's really the first place that I would tell anyone to start is start learning to mindfully eat the food, including the treats, right?
Mhm.
When you
Yeah.
have that mindful eating of the treat, it becomes you can control it rather than it controls you.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that I used to say sit and savor. That's something
Ooh.
like just with, take my chocolate lava cake example. Like when I'm sitting and I'm not scrolling or I'm not like, I'm just really looking at the cake, tasting the cake, appreciating the cake, slowing it all down. I'm savoring it. First of all, like I'm way more in touch with when I start being like, okay, I'm not really tasting it anymore. I think I have that like sugar numb tongue, so I'm going to stop eating, or, oh, wow, now I've sort of reached that point. I don't even know what my second of all was going to be, but that it is like that sitting and savoring is really helpful for me. So I will definitely put that meditation in the show notes, that listeners can get when they scroll below, because that feeling of like, what does full feel like, or what does hungry feel like, or um that's all, like we're very disconnected, I guess. There also is where you say women just keep eating, um that definitely, that like that permission to stop here, or permission to not finish it all, feels scary to some women. um how do you help them with that, like leaving things on the plate, or maybe not, some women have come from food scarcity, and so it's like I have to eat it all while it's here, or they've come from overly strict food rules where they're like, okay, big boss in the head is saying I can eat this, so I'm going to eat it all, like even if it's a salad. So how do you help with that?
Yeah, and I want you to know I relate to the food scarcity and some of those feelings, and it's just about having a dialogue with yourself, right? Okay, we can have a conversation instead of, getting all worked up. It's like, okay, let's have a conversation here. What can I do with this food? Could I put it in the fridge for later? If I don't want to throw it away, maybe I could have it a little bit later when I notice I'm hungry again. Or, we can have a conversation like, okay, me throwing this food away doesn't directly affect anything else, right? It's allowing I'm allowed to throw this food away, and it's not directly affecting someone that's starving down the street or whatever. And
Like
having
I'm
those
not going to help
conversations.
them if I'm shoving it in me, so
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So if we can be very compassionate with ourselves and just say, what do I want to do with this? And just telling yourself, I'm allowed to leave food on my plate. I'm allowed
Mm,
to leave food on my plate. Isn't
mm,
that so cool? Like I can actually control myself so much that I don't lose control and just eat everything. That's like a
mm.
cool accomplishment, right? Let's celebrate that even by saying I'm allowed to leave food on my plate.
Oh my gosh. And I mean, that just, I think that is hard for some people listening. And that would be something definitely to work towards. Like the clean plate club, it's like, wait a minute, I'm allowed. And then what comes up for them, that bring that to coaching warriors. Like, let's talk about that in the Love Your Life School, because that is 100%, there's stuff there in the background about why we're thinking we're not allowed to, or if that's uncomfortable for us, or how we then feel our feelings about that. But I really appreciate that exercise as a place to start, where we're going to just be more mindful. Actually, at the time we're recording this, we're in the middle of a health game where one of the things, you earn a point if for one of the meals, it might be all the meals, but I think it's for one of the meals, you don't do anything else except eat. Like just, and people are like, no, I just don't want that point. Thank you very much. But the discomfort with it speaks to what you're talking about, the chaoticness with it, it helps me see a lot, like, sitting and eating and even letting our brain be idle, like, there's a lot that comes up there. So I appreciate this as a first step for listeners because I think that will be very helpful.
And I have a lot of people that say I just don't want to think about food. Like I just don't
Mm,
even want to think about food. But could we flip the script here? Because food is what fuels your life,
mhm,
and your health is what allows you to show up. And the message that we kind of put out in the world, if we're like, I don't want to spend time on it,
mm,
makes it so that we don't want to pay attention to our meals. We want to be productive. We want to be doing other things. But I really believe that, health should, it can, I don't want to say should, but like
yeah.
we want our health to be a priority because our health gives us something back, right? It gives us our life. And who's to say that's a bad thing to spend a little bit more time in the kitchen? And that was a shift that I had to go through
Mm,
because I was like, oh, I want everything fast and meal plan quick and all that stuff. And I thought, you know what? There's a joy in me preparing food and, making food that is healthy for my body and sitting down and eating it. Like, I don't think I've probably appreciated it more than I have as a mom that like can't sit down and eat as
yeah,
much as I
yeah,
used to be able
yeah.
to, but realizing how that's a ritual and a practice that we've really gotten away from.
For sure. And it's a lie we tell ourselves. Like when we say, I don't want to think about food, we are thinking about food. Like we're just, because then, I don't want to think about food, but then we're going to the fast food and then we're thinking about how crappy we feel afterwards or whatever. And also just with the food prep, I am not someone who gets a great joy out of cooking, but I am someone who I cook pretty much 98% of my meals. I just don't add drama. I like set it and forget it. I decide I know what my body likes. And then I'm like, okay, when I go up after this call, I'm having my, whatever, like my sprouts and my protein and this, and it just, I'm not telling myself a lie that not doing the preparation is faster, or I'm much more back to that mindset of like, I'm a woman of wellness. How do I take care of myself or what's best for my body? So I think there can be, lots of room for everything. Like just don't tell yourself a lie that going to the, like, what are the options when we're not thinking about food or when we're doing it the quote unquote fast way? Is it really faster? I had someone over at my house the other day and they ordered we had food and we were like, do you want it? And they're like, no, we're gonna order takeaway, it'll be faster or something. I was just like, I don't even get that, so that's totally okay. Maybe they didn't like what we had. um but so they ordered and then you wait and then so it's not like by the time halfway through the wait it would have been there. And it is just, I mean, I get it, you can go to drive through and it really is right there also, but I think just coming back to that mindset of like, what's best for me? How do I feel afterwards? And there doesn't need to be as much drama around us preparing our meals as we make it. Like, I think that's a thought that many of us are thinking that it's too hard or it's too much to plan or it's too, and there's so many easy ways. Again, like reach out to Elizabeth or I mean, I've seen moms, I had 3 kids too. I saw moms now, there's Chat GPT where they just put into Chat GPT. They're like, okay, I have 3 kids. One doesn't like sticky noodles. One likes the, make me a weekly meal plan and organize, and then now a shopping list organized by aisles. It's like, boom, like that. Be quiet, brain, that it's true problem. So I think the main message I'm getting from you is like, return to yourself, dear one, with some curiosity of what's really helpful for you as this wonderful human here with the body that you're being given. Like, let's not squeeze into those little shorts or Guess jeans, or like, let's find the clothes that feel good on us while taking some, action steps to support us. It's not that sort of all or nothing, the big swing.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes back to making your health a priority. Are
Mm.
there other things in your life that are maybe priority that are a little higher than your health.
Mm.
And you'll pay for it at some point if your health isn't at least a top priority.
I mean, that is a great point because that is like, I don't have time for it. It's like, well, you have time the minute you get some sort of crazy diet. And so that's where just doing the ahead of time, like set it and forget it, figure it out. Like we are thinking about food. So let's try to make it so that we're doing it in a way. Food is nourishing to us, as we say. Like we need food. It's one of our basic needs. So let's try to do it in a way that's supportive, not punitive. All right. I feel like it sounded this is a great place to finish up. Is there anything you wanted to share? I will have your website and in the show notes and that meditation. But is there anything that you want to share or that you feel that we've left unsaid that you'd like listeners to know or hear?
I guess probably the thing that I'd say is you are capable of knowing and meeting the needs of your own body.
Mm.
And you just need to find it again. You need to rediscover it. And your body is worthy of being nurtured and nourished instead of punished and shamed. And when we shift to that nurture and nourish mentality, things change drastically. And it's a happy change. I used to have so many women, they would lose weight and they're like, I don't feel any better in my body. I still don't like my body,
Mm.
right? Because we need to come from a place of my body is worthy of being nurtured and nourished, and my body is worthy of time, right? My body is
Mm.
worthy of taking time
Mm.
and it taking time, right? Like
Mm.
taking time for my body and the things that are important for me, and things take time, and I might have to get more curious about things. I might have to do things different, but it's worthy of that time.
It's a lifelong relationship. You have your body for the rest of the life. So I like that with the time, like little tweaks. That I feel like that was a mic drop moment. And when you are capable of knowing and meeting your body's needs. That's not what capitalism wants us to believe. So you just said that. I'm like, okay, that could be something. Put on a sticky note, warriors, and let's just like you are capable of learning about yourself, knowing about yourself, and meeting your needs. We don't need, to read more articles or more YouTubes. Like just that feels really peaceful and kind to me. So thank you so much for coming on, and warriors, go give her some love on her platforms, please. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.